Hey everyone, and welcome back to Entrepreneurial Edge. Today we're diving into something that a lot of us are feeling: exhaustion. Specifically, the unique challenges that Millennials and Gen Z are facing in this constantly connected world. From the pressure to be perfect to the feeling that we're constantly behind financially and otherwise. If you've ever felt burnout, overwhelmed, or just plain exhausted by the sheer amount of you have to deal with on a daily basis, this video is for you. Let's get into it. Let's start with something that I think a lot of us can relate to, and that's perfectionism. In the age of social media where everyone is constantly presenting their best selves, it's easy to feel like we're not good enough. We compare our behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel, and it can be incredibly discouraging. Perfectionism isn't actually about being perfect. It's often a way of masking our fear of failure, a way of procrastinating on the things that really matter. The more we chase perfection, the more elusive it becomes. It's about progress, not perfection. We live in a world that's constantly plugged in, constantly scrolling, constantly bombarded with information. While the internet can be an incredible tool for connection and learning, it can also be incredibly overwhelming. Our brains aren't wired for this kind of constant stimulation. We crave depth, meaning, and real connection. How much of your online persona is actually you? We post our best photos, our wittiest thoughts, our most impressive accomplishments. But what happens when the cameras are off, the filters are gone, and we're left alone with the gap between our online persona and our real-life selves? It can be incredibly exhausting to maintain this facade, to constantly compare ourselves to the filtered and edited versions of other people online. Drowning in financial stress, the Millennial Nightmare. Let's talk about something that keeps a lot of us up at night: money. Specifically, the feeling that we're constantly behind, that we'll never be able to achieve the same level of financial security as our parents. We're facing a perfect storm of economic challenges, stagnant wages, rising costs of living, and crippling student loan debt. Home ownership, once considered a rite of passage into adulthood, feels like an impossible dream for many. It's hard to focus on building a future when you're constantly struggling to stay afloat in the present. Where are all the role models, navigating life without a map? Growing up, many of us didn't have access to strong, positive role models who could show us what it means to be a good partner, a good parent, a good person. Instead, we're bombarded with images of shallow celebrity culture, extreme ideologies, and toxic masculinity. We're essentially trying to navigate adulthood without a map, and it can feel incredibly overwhelming. Flex culture fatigue, the never-ending cycle of keeping up appearances. Open up any social media app, and you're bombarded with images of people living their best lives. Exotic vacations, designer clothes, luxury cars. It's easy to get caught up in the comparison game, to feel like we need to keep up with the Joneses, even if it means going into debt or sacrificing our own values. This is flex culture, and it's exhausting. It's a distraction from the things that actually matter: our relationships, our passions, our impact on the world. True wealth isn't measured in possessions, but in the quality of our relationships and the fulfillment we find in our work. The FOMO trap: why more is never enough. We live in an age of unprecedented choice. We have access to more information, more entertainment, more potential romantic partners than ever before, and yet, instead of feeling liberated by all this choice, we often feel paralyzed by it. This is the paradox of choice. The more options we have, the harder it is to feel satisfied with any one of them. This is FOMO, the fear of missing out, and it's a powerful force in our lives. The quarter-life crisis: lost and searching for meaning. We're talking about the quarter-life crisis, that feeling of being lost and directionless in your 20s. Add to that the pressures of student loan debt, a volatile job market, and the ever-present comparison game of social media, and it's no wonder so many of us are feeling lost at sea. The loneliness epidemic: disconnected in a connected world. We live in a world that's more connected than ever before, and yet so many of us feel profoundly alone. We have thousands of followers online but struggle to form deep, meaningful connections in real life. We're social creatures, hardwired for connection, and the more we isolate ourselves, the more disconnected and unhappy we become. We have access to more information than ever before. We can learn practically anything with a few clicks of a button. And yet many of us feel like we're drowning in information, but starving for knowledge. We consume massive amounts of content, but we rarely take the time to truly engage with it, to develop a deep understanding of any one subject. In a world that increasingly values specialization and expertise, this can be a recipe for feeling inadequate and unfulfilled. Be honest, how long could you go without checking your phone? An hour, a day, a week? We've become so reliant on our devices, so addicted to the constant stream of notifications and updates, that we've forgotten what it's like to simply be present in the moment. Real life is happening offline in the conversations we have, the connections we make, the experiences we share. Technology is advancing at an unprecedented rate. Artificial intelligence, automation, machine learning, these are no longer futuristic concepts. They're rapidly becoming our present reality. It's hard not to feel a sense of unease when you see headlines about robots taking over our jobs and algorithms dictating our lives. Love in the time of likes, navigating relationships in an over-sexualized culture. We live in a world where sex is everywhere, but intimacy is hard to find. We're bombarded with images of perfect bodies, casual hookups, and relationships that seem to exist solely for Instagram. The lines between what's real and what's performative have become increasingly blurred. The instant gratification generation, why patience is a lost art. We live in an age of instant gratification. We've become accustomed to getting what we want, when we want it, and this has had a profound impact on our patience, our work ethic, and our ability to delay gratification. It's easy to see why so many of us are struggling with long-term goals, saving for retirement, or building lasting relationships. The postponed life. Why are we waiting to live? For Millennials and Gen Z, the traditional life script has been flipped, remixed, and thrown out the window. We're delaying major life milestones because we often don't feel financially or emotionally equipped to handle them. So, there you have it, 15 exhausting challenges that Millennials and Gen Z are facing. If you're feeling overwhelmed, you're not alone. This isn't about dwelling on the negative, but about acknowledging the very real challenges that our generation faces. Thanks for watching Entrepreneurial Edge. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and subscribe to our channel for more content on how to thrive in this crazy, complicated, and ultimately beautiful world.